right, time for another stellar installment of the last Newsdesk on the left, and I am your host, Mac Paladin, speaking in soft monotones as usual. Alright, our usual crew of misanthropic miscreants is here. Adam?
Yes.
Kevin?
Good evening, or I guess good morning by the time this is over.
And of course the Wonder Twins. Petty Fan.
I'm already a twin.
Petty Fan of the Colics.
And I know I can't do Shape of an Eagle, and I'm pretty sure I can't do Form of Water.
Yeah.
I mean, we can fix a formal water part.
I feel like that was a threat.
Thinly veiled.
Very thin.
Very thinly veiled.
Good lord. It has been a week.
Sound like it's been a week.
Yeah, it sounds like it, yeah.
And it's not over yet.
Every day being a week.
Yeah. It's only Wednesday, Lemon.
You know, it's like I always say. Give me an honest week's pay for an honest day's work.
He said what he said.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Now let's see if it's
I mean, I suppose
Hmm?
we should get around to doing the show at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, it's streaming.
Let's just
That
go
was-
ahead and roll it then.
He means
Yeah.
more like fulfill the agenda of the show.
Yes.
And anyone can turn on stream and just spew nonsense for half an hour. And we've been in business of that, but also we had some things we were going to talk about tonight.
I mean, that's a lie, but, you know, whatever helps you sleep at night.
Anyway,
All right,
we
let's
have
get let's get merrily rolling along, as you like to say.
well, I'm not. I don't think there's anything merry about what we have to lead in here, since we got to talk about Cuomo again.
That fucking guy, as we also know him.
For real.
Yeah.
Well, one of them. But, yeah.
Well, both of them this fucking time.
Yeah. There's actually, actual things to say about him now. For real.
Right.
So Tuesday's explosive news was, remember we covered on Governor Cuomo with the sexual harassment.
Mm-hmm.
So the New York Attorney General's office has concluded that he sexually harassed, and he shouldn't be governor anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And Cuomo is digging his heels in. So that's the title of this week's episode. With your shield or on your shield?
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be carrying him out on his shield, it seems.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that an
Because
honor? Isn't that an
If he's
honored
not
position,
resigning,
though?
what the New York Assembly is going to have to do is impeach him.
Yep.
Right.
And yes,
But-
the origin of that is in I think it was Sparta.
You
If
know,
you
that's
couldn't
going to
bring
be a
your
very
shield-
messy affair.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I have to
Hello?
point out. Hello.
Hello.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Audio cut?
Yeah, your audio popping a little bit in and out sometimes.
Am I audible?
Everybody else is audible.
Hello.
Okay. Hi.
Yeah. Everybody's here.
Oh, hello?
Yes.
Can you hear
I hear you just fine. Do you hear me?
Yeah,
I-
I wasn't hearing you guys.
Huh.
That was neat.
I
Yeah,
know.
you were popping in and out a little bit.
Yeah,
I was going to point out something here. Isn't carrying someone out on their shield an honorific?
No.
Sort of, but that's not what the saying comes from. The saying comes from Sparta, I believe, where
Yeah.
warriors were expected to either be able to bring all of their equipment back or be dead.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I get that, but bringing you back home on your shield was also considered
Yeah, because you died honorably in battle. Yeah, I get what you mean.
yeah. So
I think that might have changed with Rome.
well,
Maybe,
well,
I
yeah,
don't know.
but fuck Rome, you know. I mean, that's all.
I hear they were into that.
But Oh, that's not the point.
Dear Moonhawk Publishing Human Resources Department.
We have HR.
Well, we do now.
Yeah, it's a folder in Mac's email thing that he never checks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway,
Look, if I check it, then I'm responsible for it.
Point taken.
That's my
Anyway.
theory, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so pretty much any senior Dem worth of salt's calling for his resignation now, up to and including, national Democratic figures. Now, Biden has called for his resignation, Pelosi, Schumer, what have you.
Yeah.
Because, keep in mind, we're not just talking about allegations, we're talking about the conclusion of an investigation from the New York Attorney General. That has a lot more weight behind it.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Like
You would think.
this is going to be kind of a very one-sided discussion tonight, because there's not a but wait, there's no third act twist here. This is a done deal.
No, there's not.
I have minor reservations as a matter of principle of policing all of the personal things of our politicians, but that ship has extremely sailed, so...
This isn't a personal thing. This is workplace.
This is workplace harassment of a very substantial scale.
It was a very razor efficient scope.
Yes.
Yeah, it's workplace harassment of an industrial scale, and there's no getting around that. Now, of course, Andrew Cuomo, being a New York Democrat, unfortunately has a bit of ego to him, so he's going to have to be impeached.
You could have just said New Yorker.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's not exclusive to Democrats in New York. I'm just
Yeah, that's right. True. I'm sorry. I
Sorry, I'm from New England, so I have...
No, I have a lot of family from New York. You don't have to tell me.
Let me take that brand off. But because he is a New Yorker, he has a bit of ego to him, so they're going to have to impeach him. And hopefully New York Democrats don't take their sweet time, or listen to people who are stupidly going out there and saying, but Republicans get away with it all the time. Why do we have to police our own? Ugh.
Because we're not
I
Republicans?
can totally understand that it's painful to have to hold yourself to a higher standard than other people do.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you should lower yourself to someone else's level.
Yeah. It's like, no, it's not we who are wrong. It is the Republicans who are wrong.
Mhm.
That's the thing you're missing here.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just saying what some people have been out there saying, and I have to call it out. So,
I know. Because, like I said, we're not Republicans. There's your answer. If you want that shit, go find a MAGA hat or something.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm tired of this whole concept of let assholes be assholes. No, get out.
It's like there's a difference between being an asshole and being, a sexual harasser.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But still, it's kind of like surrounds the whole damn thing right now, where people are like, why can't assholes be? So, but yeah, he's got to go. He's got to get out. Go now, tonight, or as soon as they possibly can, because keep him there in 2022. You can't have that guy running and being your nominee, because he's up for re-election, and if he wanted to, he could run again.
Well, I don't know how long it takes to get an impeachment of a governor of New York.
Yeah,
Yeah, every state has their own rules for this shit, so...
They said they're going to expedite the process, so, hopefully they'd expedite the process and go quicker than it should, because he's got to get out of there.
I think it would be the perfect example if the Democrats in New York were able to successfully remove him from office and say, "Let this be an example to all,"
Yes.
including a
Yes.
including a certain somebody who was impeached twice.
Yeah, who used to live in New York, but now wants nothing to do with New York, except when he comes to New Jersey every so often.
You know,
So
but what about the fact that he's pretty much basically already up for re-election? It's like, just let it be, let him run out his term. And it's like, no.
no, he's got to go because here's the problem: he's not just going to simply run out his term.
Right.
He's going to run again
Right.
if we don't get him out.
Right.
That's what ego is going to tell him, and
Right.
hopefully there is not enough people around him or near him or in his world that tell him just sit back and ride this out. You know, because like he can't be running for re-election and he can't be sitting there next year, because it doesn't matter what the hypocrisy is. Republicans are going to make him a star in every single campaign commercial.
Yep.
And I know the hypocrisy. I know all that stuff. White voters don't care. There are a lot of stupid people in this country, and that should not be underestimated heading into the next year.
Yeah, and
Okay?
and the bigger picture here is that once again they have to make an example of him in order to show people that, you know, once again, you know, we failed on the national level. We failed the test on the national level. We're not gonna fail it here. We're gonna show that Democrats do hold Democrats accountable.
Yes.
You know.
Although we actually did kind of set an example, and for some argument, and we went too far. I don't agree with that argument, of course, and of course I speak of Mr. Franken. But so
No, but we have to remind everybody that if it looks even remotely credible, it has to be.
yes,
It has to
yes, yes,
be. It must.
yes.
It must be, and that's the way of things. You know, we can't.
Yes, if there is smoke, it has to be put out.
Yep.
Okay, if there is smoke, chances are there's probably fire, and even if there isn't fire at the end of the day, it's still worse snuffing out the smoke than letting it fester.
Yep.
So, it's like we have to act firmly and swiftly because there's too many stupid people in this country that if Republicans decide to use it against us, it will succeed.
And it'll be a ripple effect. It will.
Yes.
It will.
Yes.
They'll use this as a battle cry to rally Republicans to the polls. If the Democrats act swiftly, there's no guarantee that it won't bring the Republicans to the polls. But doing nothing most assuredly will. Yeah.
Yes. Don't give them bait. Don't give them bait. It's simple as that. Because there's enough stupid people in this country that they would vote to support that bait. Period.
And brutal honesty, Republicans are complacent in victory.
Yes. So it's like we shouldn't give them any damn thing at all. Okay, not a thing. Like it's just. It should not be difficult. This should be real simple. He has to go. And if people get upset about the fact that we're pushing him out, oh well.
Yeah, and like and to be honest with you, I don't have any romanticism about this situation. I've never particularly liked the guy, and to be honest, and if COVID hadn't come along, he might have been a one-term governor anyway.
Oh, well, he wouldn't be a one-term governor because he's already had multiple terms. But it's like,
this would have been the end of the line. He wasn't terribly popular this time around.
No, he was a governor who was a typical New York governor who had a famous brand name, who really didn't excite anybody, but he was better than everybody else.
Well,
and you know,
I don't know if I wonder if he was truly better than Pataki.
He was better known.
Well, he's a Democrat, so automatically he is. But unfortunately, that's where it ends.
Right.
That's what it ends. I mean, it was the case before. It turned out that he was a creep. It's still the case now.
Right.
Now, if it's him against the Republican's probably going to have a better chance now than it did back then because, well, there's this. Of course, he probably still would unfortunately win because, we're not going to have a Republican in charge of things. It would be freaking awkward and it would make New York look horrible. Although California may have something to say about it in a couple of months. A couple of weeks, but
And nobody's doing stupid more than Florida and Texas right now.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, well, obviously.
And the recall in California is virtually incomparable. I mean, Newsom's not the greatest guy that ever lived, but he's nowhere near on the level of this.
Yeah.
It's just that it's incredibly easy to recall someone in California, which we already learned last time, and no one did anything about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, if California decides to do that, well, it'll make that shit look horrible, and well, it is what it is.
Yeah, the thing is that Gavin Newsom is not necessarily an unpopular governor. I mean, pretty much all of the people that jumped on board with this recall effort are on the Republican side of things, and contrary to popular belief, there is enough Republicanism in California to actually get such a measure onto the ballot.
Yeah, well,
as long as Democrats in California are not complacent, then Newsom will survive.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Newsom will survive. I mean, because what's the alternative?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you know that the top Republican contenders for governor in California on the recall ballot are know-nothing reality TV show stars, right?
Well, actually, to be more specifically to the point, the leader of the clubhouse, as it were, is the king of the token Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
The king of the token right-wing Republicans, a.k.a. Mr. Larry Elder.
Yep.
So,
who to put two things together is basically a Trumpster ditto head.
Yeah, he was a ditto head before Trump, but Trump pushed him way out there.
Yep.
Pushed him deeper than he ever was, and if California Democrats just let it be, well, you're gonna get what you pay for.
Yeah, there's California's had Republican governors before and survived. That's not the end of the world by itself. It's just which Republican is the important question.
Yeah. If they go with the last time they had a recall election, they put a Republican governor in. Let's just say they had to bring Moonbeam back from the dead.
Well, Schwarzenegger wasn't the worst governor in the history of California. It's just he was ineffective.
Yes, he also brought the state of bankruptcy. So,
well, he couldn't do anything though.
Anyway.
I mean, because there's a Democratic supermajority in the legislature, in the same way that there's a Republican supermajority in the Arizona legislature, and it's equally paralyzed.
Uh-huh.
It's equally paralyzing, except for the fact that we currently have a Republican governor. It's just Ducey is, as far as Republican governors go, Ducey is probably one of the most milquetoast in the nation. I'm more worried about our state senators than anything else, especially these fuckheads who are still adamant about the recount here. Which, by the way, there is a new development in that we seem to have. I don't
know the recount.
Yeah, we have.
I heard something about a fairly definitive official statement of stop wasting our fucking time with the recount.
Maricopa Board of Supervisors chairman has basically said, "Fuck off, state. We're not doing another damn thing." And then people are like, "Well, we should arrest these people." It's like, "Oh yes." Please start arresting your political adversaries. That'll be fucking great when election time comes up.
It's like enforce your own damn subpoena. Screw you. We're done.
Yeah, they're
That's what it is.
they're like, look, you've gone on for months now. You're not going to overturn this election.
You have found nothing, and then you checked again and found nothing, and then you mailed out everything, got it back, found nothing. Then you went through like 3 other sets of things,
Well,
interfered with stuff, made it so we're going to have to buy entirely new voting machines, and found nothing.
yeah, they've wasted millions of dollars of taxpayer money here in Arizona, which shouldn't even be physically possible because I don't think we have millions of dollars to spend.
Yeah.
Right, last I heard, we were a somewhat impoverished state here in the good old AZ.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so they broke all the voting machines. Next thing, it's like I said last time. I'm pretty sure that any minute now they're gonna break out their subscriptions to Philately Monthly, get the watermarking kits, and start dousing the fucking ballots to see
And
if.
as I said last time, they already went over them looking for ones with more bamboo in them.
At this point, at this point, I'm waiting for the stadium where they're doing the recount to catch on fire under mysterious circumstances, and all the ballots will be lost.
Yeah. Well.
So that's pretty much the only foreseeable outcome I can see here. Either they're shut down or they're burned to the ground. something along those orders. But legal action is being prepared. They're getting ready to go to the state Supreme Court. They're getting ready to go to the U.S. Supreme Court because they're like, this is enough. This has to stop. And they want, because if definitive action isn't taken, the Republicans know goddamn well that this is going to be weaponized against them next time around. And and there are other states considering even more time-wasting measures, and that needs to be nipped in the bud before that actually happens. This may come as a shock to people, but there are actually more moderate Republicans than there are lunatic fringe Republicans, and they're like, okay, you know what, we humored this charade long enough to try to score some brownie points, and it's not working, so it's time to call in the dogs. Accept reality for what it is, and let this go. And I'm surprised to see it coming from these elected officials, like pleasantly surprised, guardedly surprised. There's a lot of emotions to unpack here. But it is happening. The rebellion is in full swing. And
it's like, it's probably why you get this enforce your own damn subpoena, because they know for a fact that there's probably not the votes to do this anymore.
Yeah, and again, the Trump caucus, as we'll call it, is rapidly losing support in the state Senate. So especially after they've been rebuked like this, because it's like, when you start getting into threatening arrest on state and local officials by other state and local officials. There's no positive way this can end.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, hold on a second.
Yeah, there's no good way this can end. So, now, not trying to derail anything, so let's go ahead and get back on track here. But it seemed like these items kind of dovetailed into each other because they are all peripherally related, especially when it comes to what needs to be done.
I suppose the next stop is Ohio, of all places, because the latest bout of factional warfare played out yesterday in the 11th district.
Yep.
Another Trump acolyte defeated, if I'm not mistaken.
I think the Trump guy won in the 15th.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about all eyes were on the Democratic primary because the winner of that is expected to win the district.
Right.
So,
and the Trump acolyte was running for the 15th district. He won that. What we're speaking out here specifically is the 11th district.
Yeah, because this was the next big progressive versus centrist battle that occasionally happens in the Democratic Party.
Although I think it's probably more left of center versus far left situation here.
However you want to, however you because what was this?
Nina Turner.
Nina Turner versus I don't remember her
Montel.
name.
Sean, Chantel Brown.
Chantel Brown, and the results are in, and Chantel Brown has emerged triumphant.
Yeah. Bye,
and-
Nina. Goodbye, somebody.
Yeah, it's like, and the questions are, what are the lessons to take from this bout?
I can
Well-
only get. There's only one. There's only one. And that
No.
lesson is, don't have somebody call Jim Clyburn stupid.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
this is like maybe my biggest overall problem with the far left.
Mhm.
They are so dead set in making enemies
Yep.
that they end up in these kind of positions. Not all the time. I will grant you, the progressives occasionally win. Like,
Yeah, but usually when that happens, it's because the centrist moderate figure is either sleeping or ignorant.
Here's
it's like
Go
it's
ahead.
usually never a good idea to bash senior members of your own party. And it's not just Jim Clyburn that was a problem. Remember, Nina Turner insulted Biden in the primaries, if I'm remembering.
Yes.
Never a good idea to... Mac, you were saying?
Sorry. Say. Go ahead.
We were having a discussion about this earlier, and I keep reminding everybody. I said that if you look at the voting demographic in this country, 41% is either just right of center or just left of center by American reckoning, and so we ignore that demographic at our peril. And the idea is that, yeah, sure, we do need some progressive policies to be enacted, but the vast majority of the country is just not ready to drive off that cliff just yet. The vast majority of this country is still somewhat moderate or conservative. And so we need to take that into account. This scorched earth campaign of the progressives is not really helping them, because, as you pointed out, it's alienating way too much of the public in order for it to gain serious traction. So while it makes for great sound bites on Twitter, thanks to charismatic figures like AOC and the squad,
Cori Bush and
the squad, while it makes for interesting sound bites, and it's like, something needs to be done, but what you're doing ain't it.
Yeah, it's like, stuff like what Cori Bush did over the weekend is more conducive to helping. And what that was is, she led the, sleep-in at the Capitol.
Okay.
In order,
Yeah, I call it that.
I mean, it was...
I just got to say that, the fact that actually seemingly, image-wise, even though it probably wasn't, but it looked like it actually moves the needle at all, it leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Because that was
I can understand that, but, like I said, at the very least, it was good timing, good optics of the situation. And that is a lot of what politics is.
Yeah, it's like, but I don't know if exactly it was that, frankly, because...
It probably wasn't. Like, there were probably other factors that was going on behind the scenes.
But it's like, look, I just want performative liberalism to stop, to not be successful, to be, to not actually matter at all. Because it usually is freaking stupid.
Usually it's not, but in this case it was, or at least it has the appearance.
But the vast majority of it is. And I'm sorry I have to say it, that looks stupid to me. It was stupid imagery to me.
I get that, but let's be clear here. If there's anyone to blame for the situation of the COVID moratorium expiring, it's it's Congress, because they didn't do their fucking job here.
And specifically a group of moderate Democrats I can say it. I can say it. It's like, yeah, we got that piece of performative liberalism because moderate Democrats decided to say, well, we don't want to do this. We're going home. Bye.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not gonna blame Cory Bush or any of the squad for doing what they did because they
Right.
took advantage of a fucking situation that the moderate side created. You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say it, and it's disgusting to say it, but yeah.
And yeah.
Just also speaking of moderate Democrats who want to go home and say bye. Cinema apparently is trying to force the issue by saying that I'm not gonna let this stupid infrastructure garbage keep me from my vacation.
Oh well, no, she's going to stay exactly where she is because, she needs this.
She better, because apparently she's told Schumer that if it just goes past a certain date, I ain't changing my plans for nothing. So I hope that
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah, if that's the case, then let's just say that it's not going to look good for you. And yeah, I'm pretty much certain that when she's up again, she's getting primaried at this point.
Oh, there's been little doubt in my mind that she is getting primaried. Manchin, they may make a go of them, but West Virginia, good luck.
He's going to lose that seat anyway. But it's like, yeah, that's not going to go anywhere. But I would say Suma, watch out, because
but
that strategy really doesn't work very well here in Arizona. As a person who spent a sizable portion of time watching people try to primary out John McCain, that strategy is usually a losing one because what it does is it divides the base in such a way that the incumbent sails to victory. On a 33% vote.
Yeah, it's also Arizona has a love of contrarians, so
right. The
fact
that
contrarians, they'd probably live somewhere with water.
The fact that this is the weird part is that she will probably get a lot of Republican votes this time around, because of the fact that she's playing the role of conservative Democrat.
Oh, well, of course, that's if she goes to a general phase. I absolutely agree she'll get Republican votes. In a primary situation, when you talk about John McCain, a lot of the times John McCain had to go farther to the right than he probably was comfortable with in order to win those things. That build the damn wall ad.
Oh,
he had to do that because that's why he beat all that stuff, because there was...
Look, I can say this here in the safety of this podcast. I can't say it in my own house because apparently we support quote-unquote war heroes at the Prokop household. But let me explain something to you about John McCain. I had a regular customer during the 14 years that I worked at Computer Renaissance, Computer Revival. And I had a regular customer who was, last I saw him, he was in his 80s, who was a former politician and television radio personality. I won't say his name. But he used to come in all the time and talk about, and he would show us on his computer all of his writings and things that he was sending to the Arizona Daily Star about how he was basically on a crusade, even as a Republican, to remove John McCain from office because of the fact that he was all about dirty dealings and this and that. And he said he deliberately would pack the stage with fucking crazies like Kelly Ward so that way he could seem sensible by comparison and then sail to victory in his primaries with a 33% vote. If the Democrats try to do the same thing here, then the same result will occur. If they try to primary her out, all they will do is split the vote and end up assuring her victory.
Okay, but let me just ask this. What if it's just one candidate they cycle around, not 2, 3, 4? Because I know for a fact that they probably had multiple against John McCain, and that split it. But what if it's Sinema versus one single solitary candidate?
I'm going to say that I don't believe that the DNC will allow that to happen, knowing that this strategy worked for John McCain for so long.
I think the DNC would not be happy with. I think the DSCC would be not happy with any primary challenge, period. Frankly, but it's like, I just truly think that it probably would be there probably would be enough there because I should note that when we know why Ducey got reelected even though Cinema won that and Dems got a big night all across the board on that reelection, but Dick Ducey got a big victory because he went up against the Berniacs. So there are Berniacs and left wingers and far lefters that if Democrats aren't careful could carry the day over there.
Well,
Here's
here's the situation that I see here in Arizona is that a primary challenge to Cinema ends up in a Republican victory because
yeah, absolutely. I'm not talking.
Yeah. So they would have to dilute the vote as much as possible to make sure that she wins, because if she doesn't, the alternative is far worse.
Yeah, I'm saying all of this in the primary phase because I know for a fact that if she's taken out by a far leftist and that far leftist wins the primary, that far leftist is going to get nuked. Yep. I know that for a fact. We saw that. Yeah. We saw that back when because Doug Ducey is your governor.
Right.
That's the reason why he got another term. So.
Right.
I'm not saying that.
So I'm just saying this is super. I'm saying this is super important. We need to understand this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not fooling anybody. I'm know for a fact that if a primary challenge is successful, chances are that primary challenge winner probably would lose big time because Cinema has a better chance of getting crossover appeal than a far leftist. I'm not saying otherwise.
Yeah.
I live in Greenland, for God's sakes.
No. So what we really need to do is, instead of talking about primarying her out as a party, what we really need to do is we need to figure out exactly what motivates this woman, because that's part of the issue. Is that they don't seem to understand what it is that she really wants.
She's not made it very clear what she wants. Period. I mean.
Right, and they're not very good at getting but they're not being very good at getting that information out of her. This didn't have to be this way. This is a two-way street. This is not just her being intransigent. There's something inherently wrong, because she went from being, a green peacenik to suddenly being a
dead Democrat.
Dead set moderate to conservative Democrat, and it's like, how the fuck did this happen? How do you run on this platform and then do such a radical 180 to the point to where you're practically being called a Republican in name?
Yeah.
Or a Republican in spirit. It's like, how exactly did this work? How did you end up? It's like, we expected it from Joe. We expected it from old Manchin, but.
Yeah.
Cinema was the least likely candidate to go this direction, and all of a sudden she's like, it's like, is it clout? Is it something that you're not getting for Arizona? What is it you want?
And that's the thing, because it's like, Manchin is very clear about what he wants, what he needs, what his game is.
Well, he's a good old boy of politics. He's a good old boy of politics, so he understands the system. He knows that if he actually wants to get things, he needs to be very clear about this. He can't prevaricate. Yeah. She's new, so maybe she doesn't. Maybe she just doesn't know that. Maybe she just doesn't know the system or something. Whatever the deal is, she doesn't have Manchin's experience.
A lot of times she's hid behind Manchin.
Right. So it's like
behind her. So it's like, at this point, considering the fact that Manchin is all the way out there with what he wants. Meantime, you're over here. You need to say what you want.
Right, and I think the Democrats need to be better.
You're not going to vote to kill things by yourself. You don't want the spotlight all to yourself.
Right. I think the Democrats need to. I think the Democrats need to work on. I think the Democrats need to work on their communication skills, because this has always been a problem. This has been a problem as long as I've been alive. This has been a problem, and that's the Democrats have always been a little up and down on messaging. It's like
just some of them have a problem with it. I think there are some that are pretty clear about what they want, but there are others that are just convoluting and fumbling around and trying to figure out and trying to either hide behind people, because a lot of them just hide behind others.
Right, but like I said, it's like people like my dad are sitting around going, "Well, I just don't know what the Democrats do." He's like, he admits, he's like, well, I mean, generally speaking, it's like, we're better off than what's going on with the Republicans right now. And he says, but I still don't know what they do. And I'm like, that's been the problem for 30 plus years, is that they coalesce in the short term and then lose their focus. They
Well, I think it's actually more the fact is that, they try to say what they want, but unfortunately no one wants to hear it. And even when they do say what they want, people get bored of hearing it. Meanwhile, Republicans go out there going, and people go, yay, whatever.
Well, because the Democratic messaging is not very exciting. It's all like, we want to be responsible adults and make things work. I don't want to hear about that. I want to see about the latest soap opera drama.
That's the thing, though. It's like, if you want to be a governing party, you can't be soap opera guys. And unfortunately, that means doing things that make people bored and go to sleep. But that's the screwed up part about politics.
Yeah.
Is that people want things to get done, but unfortunately, people don't want to hear it. They just want to be yelled at. They want to get spiced up and excited and everything else.
They want it to basically be like British politics, except they don't want to admit it.
That's pretty much.
They want basically a chamber of people just screaming at each other and not using Robert's rules.
Yeah, they just basically want Prime Minister's question time.
Right.
Essentially, that's what they want. And that's that may be good in Europe, may be good in England, and maybe good in Canada and other places. But here it's like, no, literally rebelled against that.
Yeah.
So,
I just don't know. I don't know anymore.
yeah, I don't know anymore either at this point.
Well, I mean, right now the big focus of the Dems is, still the infrastructure package. Like,
Well, but which one? I mean, it's like, yeah, there's the cooperative one with
Both
the
of
Republic,
them.
right? Both of them, but the $1 trillion one is the one that's got the most traction in the media right now because it's the bipartisan bill, and then we've got these scoundrels who are standing against progress. It's like,
it's also because the reconciliation one isn't actually being, well, I'm not saying worked on, but it's not being. The bipartisan one is the one being worked on right now.
I think they're sitting on. I think they're sitting on the reconciliation one just a little bit longer to see how this bipartisan one goes.
Well, yeah. Pelosi has basically said they're not going to work on it until the bipartisan one's passed. Because they kind of want.
Yeah.
And this is the part where I once again get grumpy at people like AOC for, you need all. It's like, well, just shut up already, okay? It's like, look, I get it. You're right and you're wrong at the same time, okay? It needs to happen, but you're not going to force the issue, so shut up.
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty much.
We love you. Sit down.
Please.
Well, it's also, this is what I don't like about AOC. She is not necessarily herself, but her fucking image is that of this super politician that is, she's a maybe not junior league rep anymore, but she's still a new face to the Congress, and she doesn't exactly have a lot of allies there. So,
which is absolutely essential.
Yeah,
and you know what you call a senator without many allies?
Yeah,
former senator
or former congressperson. Same thing, though.
Yeah.
It's more. Yeah. Okay. She talks a good enough game. But that's it. It's talk. And this goes back to my problem with the alienation of the far left. When you alienate your fucking allies, you can't get shit done.
I mean, wasn't the only bill that she was actually a significant part of co-sponsored by Ted fucking Cruz? It's like when you alienate your allies so much that your enemies become your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like maybe one day AOC will be the great politician that her, not necessarily marketing campaign, but her fan club purports her to be, but she's not there. How could she be? Because she's only been in politics for like 4 fucking years.
Right.
Now, it's like you'd have to be a very exceptional talent, and no, AOC isn't that exceptional talent.
No.
Yeah. Now, she's good. She's good in certain regards.
She's very good. Very good at saying what some people are thinking.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's really good at media blitz. But as an actual legislator, she, she's very green.
Mm-hmm.
Obama was infinitely more effective though at the media blitz thing.
Well,
because you can actually say that he got stuff done, even though he was a junior senator who had only been there for 4 years and became
Obama's
president.
Exactly who I was referring to in being an exceptional talent.
Right.
He's a once in generation. Because keep in mind, he went from junior senator of Illinois to goddamn president of the United States.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly. I was picking up what you were laying down. I was definitely picking that up, and that's why I said it out loud because I think it needs to be said. Credit where credit is due. And,
right.
People tried to hold her up as the next Obama, and I'm just like, nah.
No.
Sorry. It's like, once again, I like her as a personality, but oh my god, that is not a fair comparison. That is not a fair comparison.
No. It's if only because AOC hasn't been means tested in that fashion yet. Once again, she's only been a rep from a very heavily damned district. She hasn't run for any statewide office, any governorship, anything like that.
Right.
So we don't know how popular she is with a larger electorate.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some truth to that. Maybe it's a great unknown until she actually starts running for a senator position or just insert a higher office here.
Yeah.
Anyway, we should probably segue over to the entertainment section.
Indeed.
And it's probably time for some positivity now, because well, the question here is, who here is familiar with the Owl House?
I'm familiar with it, though I have not been able to watch much of it yet.
Is that the show that had some problems with its creator? No, that was Loud House.
No,
that was Loud. Yeah, Loud. This is Owl.
Yeah, the Owl House is very different.
They're very different shows.
Very different shows. Yes. Okay.
No, the Owl House is how do I put this? I guess for a lack of better term, it's kind of the It show in the queer cartoon world.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of it's certainly like the biggest, representation of LGBT plus people since like She-Ra.
Right.
At least on the social media.
On an interesting side note, I have finally completed all 5 seasons of that.
Neat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's like, the question from the outside might be, what's so special about this show? Well, okay. This past week they had the big shipping, what they call Lumnity or Luzzity.
Lumnity is the one. They even changed it on the fucking on the fucking tweet. Disney did a tweet for it, and then they used like the wrong fucking ship name.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah, there was originally Luzzity on there, and then the internet went, "It's Lumnity, you idiots!" And then went, "Oh, okay, yikes."
Although, is that how people? Is it with an U? I assumed it would be a U, since she's Hispanic and it's pronounced so.
Well,
I mean, I don't know. Ship names don't necessarily have to be pronounced "quote unquote" right. So
fair enough. But the overall point here is, Luz and Amnesty Blight got together officially this past week. I'm like, which isn't all that unusual in today's day and age. We're living in a post-Korra, She-Ra, Steven universe, etc. world. What's significant here is these two are hooking up at season 2, episode 8.
Yeah. Not at the last call.
Yeah, or the near to last call. Like Ruby and Sapphire did have a wedding episode close to the end, but they had some time. But they were a secondary character or characters, however you want to define that.
Also, they were in a relationship for the entire show, to the point that you didn't even know that they existed outside of that relationship for several episodes.
Uh-huh.
Look, Gems is weird.
Yeah. Anyway, point is, we don't have a case of the last season days, as I've heard it called. Because, keep in mind, part of the whole battle for queer representation on the television, especially with kids shows, is the creators had to fight tooth and nail to get that stuff, going back to, say, Steven Universe, like Rebecca Sugar had to threaten to quit to get the wedding episode.
Which, yes, it is an important thing for people in the discourse to keep in mind that X ran so Y can walk point here, or the other way around. Definitely this is a progressive thing of how much you could, not in the political sense, but in the procedural sense, of how much you can get away with increasing.
This is literal progress, if you will. It's remember, just what, Korra and Asami was 7-8 years ago at this point? It's the most they could get on television, and not even television. Remember, Korra was kicked to the online world by season 4, was, hand-holding and body language. Yes, the comics have fixed some of that, but, that wasn't television. To where we're getting, queer characters can have relationships, can have affection, physical affection. We've had, queer characters kiss and hold hands and all that stuff on the kids' shows, And, so what's the Owl House is doing is it's managing that further so that these two can have a relationship that can build beyond the initial coupling. Now, I won't say that's not a thing that's ever happened in terms of kids' TV, but
it's a lot less common than.
Well, it's not really with a main character sense.
Yeah,
well, it's a frustratingly common thing in a lot of fiction in general, that a lot of stories treat it like that a relationship forming is the end of a story and nothing interesting happens after that.
Well, that's kind of where a lot of the frustration from queer people have been coming from, in terms of, once again, that terminology the last season gates. Like She-Ra is a good example. Everything from season 1 through 4 was a lot fuzzier in terms of delineating things.
I don't know about that. I mean, I think there was a lot more build-up with that there than...
Well, I mean, once again, the creator herself has confirmed that they had to be a lot more delicate with things until they got closer to the end of the series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And some of that was building it up so that they could say, we've been building this up for a long time, you can't just make us change our plans, because there are definitely some people that would have tried to make them change their plans.
Yeah. And once again, the Owl House is a good measuring stick of the progress that's actually been made, because it doesn't look like they had to do that kind of dance. Maybe
although season 3 is going to be very abbreviated.
Yeah, that's a problem on its own, and I will acknowledge that's part of the speculation in the discourse right now, that this is perhaps the grand bargain that had to be struck to get to this point. But because season 3 is going to be 3 44-minute specials, basically 6 episodes.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, even with that locked in, you've still got the rest of season 2 to build this up. Which is a fair amount of time. Honestly, the pacing of the whole relationship thing has been very good. Believe me, if you want to watch, romance don't go nowhere, just watch anime romance. Don't get me started. I'm like, anyway. But it's not just that. It's because the Owl House introduced Disney's first non-binary character. Rain, I believe, is their name.
I think it's Rain Whispers. Yes.
Yeah, Rain. Also worth noting is they've confirmed that they were in a relationship with Ida. Which, once again, that's breaking ground on its own because non-binary characters and relationships are even more sophisticated than, say, for lack of a better term, straight lesbian couplings. Once again, this is one of those minority squabbles, let's say. Like, for example, I saw somebody today grumble about what's going on with the Harley Quinn series because they just had a first issue of their sequel comic released, about, the representation of gay men in media and how that's harder to get than that is a matter of perception. Because, like, going back to anime and manga, boys' love is a much bigger genre than girls' love. So,
it's also arguably considered less legitimate by a lot of people, so that's its own issue.
Right. But, I can definitely agree that having gay guys, especially in, like, main or supporting roles, is rarer than having bisexual or lesbian girls, but they're not non-existent either. Like, if you want that, I'll recommend just two shows off the top of the head: Kipo and the Age of the Wonder Beasts and The Hollow. That's all I'll say here and now. Let people experience it for themselves. But I can say, they definitely tick the representation boxes. It's just, neither of those shows got the fucking media attention that something like She-Ra or Steven Universe or, now the Owl House, because, Lumnity, I've seen many an article in bigger mainstream news places, like, or big time queer organizations like Out Magazine published an article about them not too long ago. And I get it. There's definitely an imbalance there. But at the same time, like something like Lumnity, this is what the creator herself wanted, Dana Terrace, who is herself bisexual, and she wanted to write a romance series around a bisexual teenager. And this is the ultimate progress in that name that we've gotten in such a short time, that a creator can get this with fewer strings attached. I won't say no, because we don't exactly know the behind back and forth what's going on with the Owl House right now. Also, keep in mind, this is a Disney show.
Yep.
Like, that's especially notable because, remember, Disney's been trying to cash in on their first gay character in the movie field, like, all the fucking time. No, seriously. Like, there's been, like, 7 times. Look at Disney's first gay character in the movies. Meanwhile, yeah. And that's due to the fact that Disney has to sell their films in very repressive regimes.
Such as Russia and China and parts of the United States.
And parts of Europe.
Yeah, but here's the thing. There'll be a lot of
that was just a joke that I'm including, that some of the issues are in fact in the United States. It's not just Russia and China.
No, it is them, because they will actually ban those fucking films in entering their nation.
Yeah.
We will not ban Star Wars Rise of the Skywalker because it had 2 girls kissing. Okay?
Uh-huh.
That is
Yeah.
a huge fucking difference.
Yeah.
Let us be clear.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, it is Disney bending the knee to these fucking regimes. Like, they don't care. Like, and that's and that gets back to the Owl House here, because why is the Owl House allowed to get away with so much comparatively? Well, there's a lot less writing on the Owl House than there is on the next Star Wars or Marvel movie or even Disney Plus TV series.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Owl House is maybe a headliner of the Disney Channel, but what is the Disney Channel in this day and age?
Yeah. The age of Disney Plus. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like it's not that important of a cog in the Disney machine these days.
Nope.
So, call that a double-edged sword. It allows the Owl House to get away with a lot more, but it also means the progress is perhaps restricted in terms of visibility. However you want to define that. I think it's perfectly fine in terms of levels of, representation. It's still a big time Disney series. It's like you can say Disney is fucking doing these things. Because I also get these cynical applications here because it's not fucking with the money, but it still fucking counts. Okay, not everything has to be Marvel or bust.
Yeah.
That is still a fight worth having. But the fight for representation isn't just in the major media tent poles or the extreme indie scene either. It's especially important in this sphere because it's giving queer kids representation that their forebears never could have even dreamed of having.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is a really good thing.
Yep.
Are there still things to work on? Of course there are. But as somebody who's watched this all happen in basically real time, it's amazing how fast things have moved. And just to put it in even more perspective, 20 fucking years ago, Cartoon Network refused to have gay characters on their fucking network, which gave the eternal running joke of kissing cousins in Sailor Moon.
Yep.
And that series still hasn't lived that fucking down.
Nope. It lives forever.
Yeah, even though they've essentially fixed all of that. They have a new dub. They brought over Sailor Stars. They're doing Sailor Moon Crystal.
Yeah.
The fucking their cousins thing still comes up.
Yeah.
That's what a network run in 2000 does for your rep, I guess.
Yep. Anyway.
So is there anything else we need to cover?
Do we want to talk about Digimon or?
I don't.
There's a new series that actually looks pretty good.
Yeah, the new series looks pretty good. There's an O2 film.
Ignore.
And there's something else that happened. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, we can talk about that after it's had a little bit longer to shake out, honestly.
Yeah, because
Something went okay, Boomer.
pretty much, yes. Pretty much. Anyway, I think that's all for this week.
Yeah.
All right. Stuff and things.
Yes.
I don't really have much to say. I'm trying to get a Kickstarter campaign launched for a number of studio projects, which is why I've been quiet all through your Owl House discussion, LGBT plus issues being near and dear to my heart right now. But I'm trying to get a Kickstarter rolling, and of course, they like to correct one of two problems. You send them two problems, they correct one of them, and then say, "Pat me on the back for how great we're doing." It's like you kind of missed the other thing. And of course, my outbound email box has always been a fucking problem. Every time I set up anything with GoDaddy on a Macintosh, it's like, no, I'm sorry, you have 2 email addresses, and this confuses us. Congratulations, Apple Mail. Go fuck yourself. Yeah, I can't figure out what the problem is because it says unable to verify, and I'm like, okay. So, yeah.
And what is it that you are unable to verify?
Pretty much. So that's what I've been struggling with for the last 10 minutes is I received a reply, they fixed one thing and they didn't fix the other, and I'm just like, blah, blah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. I got to reply to the email, but I got to reply to the well, maybe I can log in manually to my workspace email.
Anyway.
But anyway, the bottom line is this. I'm going to be starting a Kickstarter campaign for $23,000. This is to complete 3 films. Starship Moonhawk, The Death of Perseus, Survivor based on Starship Moonhawk, and Starship Moonhawk, The Mercadian Affair, Part 1. The Mercadian Affair is massive, if you've read the comic. So it's going to take some money and some doing to actually complete all that, and plus I got to hire a lot more actors, etc., etc. So a lot of things will be happening. I will be talking about it in future installments of the show, and so on and so forth. But as soon as I get this, chargeback account set up correctly, so that it's no longer reflecting a debit card for an account that's closed. I will be launching a Kickstarter for this, and like I said, it's going to be $23,000, and I'm hoping that I can actually get to this because I really can't get a lot. Zero support from the cast and crew. Either because they're physically unable or because they're uncertain about the overall quality of the project, which is interesting that they jumped into bed with me in the first place. So there is that. Oh yeah, I totally want to act in your thing. Oh, promoted. Well, you know, I have a career to worry about, which is a legit thing. I totally get that. I don't want everybody to know that you could just approach me on Facebook and ask me questions. Personally, that's a feeling that I have from time to time, considering the quality of individuals that I run into on Facebook. But I digress. But yeah, so this is a thing that's going to be going on. It's a big one. It's probably the largest type of campaign that I've ever tried to run, and it's the most broad spectrum. So this is, and I'm sure, and of course, for many of you, this is your first time hearing about this. So yeah, as soon as I get that resolved, I'm going to be launching a Kickstarter campaign and see where the chips fall. It's an all or nothing deal. That's the way Kickstarter rolls. So either we get it or we don't. And all of the rewards are digital, so you don't have to worry about stuff getting mailed to you. With some rare exceptions, we do have an autographed poster deal, but I'll jump off that bridge when I come to it.
Well, and that stuff is fairly inexpensive to mail.
It's not the mailing part, it's the getting it made.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, sometimes it is the mailing stuff. If stuff gets heavy, sometimes, especially if you're open to any international things.
Yes, well, unlike my ex-girlfriend who had a wildly successful Kickstarter campaign that was mired by the fact that she didn't include international shipping in the cost, I'm setting aside personal money that I will earn over the next several weeks, months, whatever, to pay for any overages and costs. If, God forbid, we are somehow able to clear this campaign and actually get $23,000 or more, then I will put aside money specifically from my own earnings, because I'm not worried about turning a profit on these projects from the Kickstarter. That's a mistake a lot of people make. The whole purpose of this is to get it made. We've been fucking around for 5-6 years now, and one of the things that causes us to inch along is inability to acquire assets, inability to get scoring done, and inability to hire the actors and actually pay the agreed upon salaries. It's all nice to come up with numbers and everything, but if I don't have the money, it's like, well, I'll go ahead and buy your services in June, and your services in July, and yours in August, and yours in September, and so on and so forth. And people become very disillusioned with projects that go like that. Animation can take years and yada yada yada, especially if you're a small indie studio, unlike certain Japanese producers that we make jokes about on Sundays when I'm actually there. But yeah, so this is kind of a big thing that's going to be happening, and I'm just trying to get all the ducks in a row, and I'd like it to work for once. We've run successful campaigns before, and I'm not entirely sure what the magic was there. That we can't hit these bigger numbers, but I do know that reach is a difficult part of that, and that's always been one of the things that has stymied us in as far as getting producers and so on and so forth. So this is coming. It's going to be very soon. And like I said, I literally have two things. We have plenty of material to show. I think we have plenty. I think we have beyond proof of concept that we can actually do this. Now it's just a matter of getting it funded. So, if I have to go it alone, it'll take me the next 5 years, and we'll get there. But this is the last ditch effort to get it done in the next 365 days. So that's where I stand in entertainment news. But yeah, overall, I think we had a good talk today, and so that's it. All right, so that's it for this week's installment of Last Newsdesk on the Left, and of course, I'm your host, Mac Paladin, on behalf of the crew at Last Newsdesk on the Left. Thanks for listening. Stay safe out there, kids.
Get vaccinated, children.